Hi, everyone. It's been so exciting to hear from so many of our startup founders today. The key takeaway for me has been that software is indeed eating the world, and AI is only expediting this entire process. The question that we're going to tackle in this panel is whether software and AI is going to eat venture capital. And I believe the answer is yes, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So we have been building AI and data science tools for many years, and I would love to share them with you. But let me quickly introduce you to the team. We'll go into more details, but Ricardo is somebody I've known for many years, almost 18. Vikram is our intern. He's at Harvard. Shikin's our chief of staff. And we'll do a longer description later on. But I also wanted to sort of bring up Lalit, who's our limited partner, also a long-term friend, and I worked with him at Google. He built Google Maps, and he's been very closely associated with us and actually helping build and give us advice on these tools as well. So the best way to sort of explain this, like as you look at the opportunities and the pain points, as engineers on this team, we sort of broke down what we do as a venture capital into its individual sort of pieces. The big three pieces are finding a company, which is the sourcing and diligence portion of the product, the grind phase, which is the bulk of the bell curve, where after a company is a portfolio company, it takes anywhere from 2, 3, 5, 10 years to sort of build that into a large organization, and all the things that actually are required from our part to support that startup. And the last part is the exits, whether it's M&A or IPOs. And so the team sort of broke this down. So if you look at the top of the funnel, which is the find part, the number of startups have increased by 10x in the last 10 years. Our capacity to sort of do 10x isn't doable. So larger venture funds have sort of tried to solve this problem by throwing analysts at the problem. So more human beings. And I think this is where dilution happens in terms of returns as well as quality. The pitch decks, as you know, the early stages, lack information. So we constantly in our meetings have to spend time digging information out. In the grind phase, everything from figuring out the key nuggets, the KPIs, to the very untimely, ineffective portfolio support, everything from fundraising to everything else. And how do we leverage AI and data science to sort of improve this process? And you'll hear examples on how we've done this so far. And lastly, the people in this room, how do we leverage not just our network, but our network of our entire ecosystem, and sort of this old adage that it takes a village to raise a child. And I truly believe that it takes a village to raise a startup. And so we're building our community by leveraging AI to be able to find the right connections. And Vikram will actually cover that portion later in the section. So the reason we're doing all this is for one reason only, is to improve IRR. And you'll hear this theme sort of resonate through the rest of this discussion. So without wasting too much time giving you bullet points, I wanted to introduce you to Professor Ricardo. As I mentioned earlier, I've known Ricardo for 18 years. He worked with me at Google. We did some pretty seminal work at Google to looking for needles in haystacks, and before the word data science was even coined. He went on to become a professor and PhD for AI and data science, and has been working with us very closely for the last 10 years. He's on board now, more or less full-time, works for us, but also for a number of our portfolio startups, actually being the head of data science. I'd like to introduce him to walk us through an example.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Manu. So one thing you're building is an AI assistant, which are calling VC Copilot. And we wanted to share how this alpha version is coming along. So earlier, Manu forwarded an email from a startup founder to this tool. The tool uses AI to intelligently parse the information sent and get that into an structured format. It then expands the information using different sources and creates a report. Let me show what this looks like. So in a matter of a few minutes, the tool generates this report from the pitch deck that was forwarded and the email, but also gets information from the website that it gets from the pitch deck. So it creates a lot of sections that are useful for decision-making automatically. Different sections uses different kind of information. So for example, the founder's information is coming from LinkedIn. But an LLM actually creates keywords for an open web search and then filters the results and summarizes the content whenever that's needed. It then reasons on the information it has to create new insights. So for example, in this section, we have some thoughts on past joint experience of the founders and how far back they go. It also evaluates how relevant the skills of the founders are to the startup mission. Of course, it can't get everything from the open web or the information the founder sends. So whenever the tool detects that it doesn't have an information, it automatically reach out to the founders and try and ask the questions that it needs to get information so that it can fill out as much as it can. These LLMs are not just databases, and they can actually reason on different information from different sources. And it's really interesting that the AI picked up that the founders, for example, do not have a very deep sales expertise. And it suggests that this is something that we should dig deeper into. So we sent this report to the founder of that company that was in the report and got some really good positive feedback for such an early version of this tool. And this is just the start. There's a lot of that is coming up. And the next few steps that we have is we are going to make this a self-serve tool. So the founders can submit their pitch deck through the website and automatically get this report. This will allow us to create a collaborative interaction with the founders. So they are able to improve the pitch deck before they even schedule a first meeting with us. We will also be able to ingest finance and user behavior data and find and suggest third-party references to get opinions on qualitative aspects. All of this will allow us to improve the branding and ultimately enhance IRR. We are very excited to put this tool into use and proud of the progress so far. And this is just the latest part of the Inventus data science strategy. Manu will now talk about how data science can be and have been a powerful tool for VCs. Manu.
Thank you, Ricardo. And the portion that Ricardo just mentioned, it tackles some of the hardest part is the top of the funnel, where data is very hard to get by. As I switched to our middle section, where we spent a lot of the time. So this company, Poshmark, which most of you are familiar with, we had an IPO here a couple of years ago. In 2010, we led a $600,000 seed round in the company. And over the years, we put in $17 million. And ultimately, this company actually returned 5x the entire Fund 1. We had crossed over with LP approval, returned Fund 2 by 1x. And then we further crossed over and did a special purpose vehicle, and that returned that by 3x. And this fantastic return, again, impacting IRR dramatically, started very early on in 2013, 2014 timeframe, when before the revenue numbers were actually clear on the hockey curve. Ricardo and I spent a lot of time actually understanding the data underneath the metrics. The founders had this inkling that this company is not just an e-commerce site, but actually had a social angle underneath it. And we were pretty obsessed by figuring out quantitative reasons or explanations to be able to show that every single time. And Ricardo's work actually proved it, that underneath this was actually a social networking site. And this experience came from having worked with me in 2 other social networking sites beforehand and a gaming company. So a lot of expertise, but also looking for the needle in a haystack. And this gave us the confidence to help Conval, who was on the board of this company, to actually push and increase our stake in the company. We did super pro rata rights that we were able to push forward to. And again, this is an example of this relationship with Ricardo spanning many decades. Now, going off to the next slide, I wanted to sort of switch tracks and also give you other parts of our grind section, and our Chief of Staff, Shiken, will take you forward with that.
So what Manu and Ricardo mentioned about is how we are leveraging AI to decide where to put our money. But how about leveraging AI to decide what to do once we put our money into a company? So we collaborate with our portfolio companies to help them find the next round of funding, but we just don't restrict ourselves to the network of our GPs. What we tried doing this time was that we took a database of 1,600 VC firms all across the US, and we used AI to find the VC firms whose investment thesis aligned best with our portfolio company that's raising funds. And then we asked our portfolio companies to send short snippets about themselves to such VCs, hoping that they'll catch the bait. And what we were able to do as a result was that our portfolio company, Anna Networks, was able to get a VC that led a $6 million Series A raise. And this VC was completely unknown to any of our team members. So what we have done using AI this time is that we've erased all boundaries and we've really widened our net to find VC firms from everywhere that can lead our portfolio company's next round of funding. So we aren't just restricting to fundraising for portfolio companies. We're also using AI to match make our portfolio companies with customers and for other purposes. And to elaborate more on that, I'll now invite Vikram, who's a design and engineering expert. He's from Harvard University and Rhode Island School of Design. And he also runs a very successful design firm by the name of Nowform in India. And Vikram has been helping us part-time on this entire project to conceptualize it, design it, and implement it. Over to you, Vikram.
Thanks for the introduction, Shikin. So I'd love to continue to talk more about how this tool can continue to augment our grind process and also how it can be used to improve our mining success. Our goal is to use AI to make our affinity network much more powerful and create personalized matchmaking. And while large funds have big market development teams, as a smaller fund, we need to be more creative. Instead, we plan to use tech to access our web of networks to support with due diligence, mentorship, and as Shikin demonstrated, fundraising for our portfolio startups. This tool can also help us identify LPs and other people within our community to help our startups find customers. Finally, we're also looking to leverage this matchmaking tool to help us identify people or avenues for possible exits. We believe in the strengths of a robust community and hope that affinity-led matchmaking can improve the chances of success for our portfolio companies and increase the IRR of Inventus. And now back to you, Manu.
At the end, as you can imagine, our focus has been to use power law, right? Everything, as I mentioned early in the deck, early stage venture actually lives and dies by the power law. So 10% of your companies actually give you 90% of all returns. Our focus is instead of 1 in 10, can we do 1 in 9, perhaps 1 in 8 or 1 in 7 over time? And this constant focus on improving across the finding, grinding, and mining portion of our startup's life cycle is the sole purpose of why this team sort of has been together.